California.
San Francisco.
Probably, I say China.
I believe they are originally from China.
I would just say China.
It's from China, right? Because a lot of Chinese restaurants, they serve this fortune cookie.
Fortune cookies are a staple in the US, especially in our Chinese restaurants. In fact, if you traveled the globe in search of the various versions of Chinese food adopted by other countries, like Jennifer 8 Lee, daughter of Chinese immigrants and author of the New York Times bestseller Fortune Cookie Chronicles has, you would find that the place fortune cookies are blatantly missing from is China.
If you were to bring a bag of fortune cookies to China and give them out, most people would be completely mystified as to what they were. In fact, really? I have done that, and I give them the cookies, and then they will bite them, and then they're really surprised because there's a piece of paper inside their cookie, and then you tell them, well, they're from America, and these Chinese people are like, huh, Americans are so strange. Why are they putting pieces of paper in their cookie? So even though fortune cookies are something that we identify in America as Chinese, they're basically foreign in China.
这叫什么名字啊
Fortune cookie.
What do you want to say?
还有那个鸡呀、
什么呢？这是哪？这是什么？
你中奖了，果子。
这是果子啊。
这是什么？
是一个信誉。
挺好吃的。
And they're actually from, originally from Japan.
Fortune cookies can still be seen today being made by hand by generations-old small family bakeries outside a temple in Kyoto. Japanese cookies are bigger and browner, as their batter contains sesame and miso rather than vanilla and butter, which sweet taste is more palatable for Americans. The fortunes are not stuffed inside, but are pinched in the cookie's fold. Japanese researcher Yasuko Nakamachi turned up many references to the cookies in Japanese literature and history, including an 1878 image of a man making them in a bakery, decades before the first reports of American fortune cookies.
Fortune cookies were brought by the Japanese immigrants to the United States, and they were introduced, roughly a century ago, like sometime before World War I. And what happened is that we can basically see when fortune cookies took off as a Chinese thing, and that was true by the end of World War II, that, all these Chinese, that all of these American military personnel during World War II had spent time in San Francisco and gone in and out of the Chinese restaurants, become very familiar with, chop suey and fortune cookies, and then after the war they go home to Minnesota and Iowa and are like, why don't you have those authentic cookies like they have in Chinatown? And so the Chinese restaurateurs, and so at that point you see sort of like a growth in the cookies across the country because the Chinese restaurateurs have a very tight-knit community and are sort of able to spread. Among those that were swept up, of course, were those that made fortune cookies. And during that time is when you see sort of a shift between fortune cookies being made by the Japanese to something that was mostly kind of distributed and promoted by the Chinese because they saw an opportunity and sort of moved in for the kill. So I like to say that fortune cookies are made by the Japanese, popularized by the Chinese, but ultimately they're consumed by Americans. Mine, they're hugely popular in part because they've been so effective at catering to American desires and expectations. And
No, it's usually comic relief.
They're just fun.
They're just fun.
Yes, but I take them a little seriously because a lot of times it applies. And I don't know if it's just luck or what, but it, yeah.
It's for fun. It's not real for. Yeah, it's not for a real thing, you know.
For some words, I like the words, so I will keep them.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a few of them that I save just because they make me feel good about myself. Like one fortune told me I was a charismatic person and my personality draws people to me, so I keep that in my wallet just because I thought it was cute.
It's no coincidence fortune cookies are popular in America. Americans have very superstitious beliefs, as Rod Serling's 1960 Twilight Zone episode, Nick of Time, displays.
Are you just going to stay here?
I don't know.
Oh, sweetheart, listen to me. Please, if you love me, just listen to me.
No, you listen to me. This machine is predicting our future. Do you think I could just walk away from it?
While the promise of opportunity attracts thousands of immigrants to the U.S., the emphasis of fortune cookie sayings on opportunities may alleviate the harshness of current life by projecting a better future. On the one hand, they protect the psyche because they provide a certain relief, especially for those who are struggling in their everyday lives. On the other hand, they are problematic because the relief they offer is through escapism. Escapism keeps people from actively challenging prejudice, discrimination, and other forms of inequality and injustice, which minority groups, like Chinese immigrants in America, deal with on a regular basis.
I'm not sure that Americans have a corner on superstition, but I think it is encouraged in many ways because all the newspapers, of course, publish horoscopes and things like that. And there's just such a growing number of lotteries and things of nature across the country. So I think people do tend to subscribe to this idea that luck and good fortune can be had in one way or another.
I think Americans have a really strong superstitious belief to the point where they play their lucky numbers over and over again in lotteries, and you can see by how many times people win with the same number. The power of fortunes and those numbers in the cookies. And, you know, who is to say it's not right? Because after all, we've seen hundreds of people win lotteries because of the lucky numbers in their cookies.
Fortune cookies are a safe mainstream source for fortunes. Nearly everyone in America goes to Chinese restaurants. Fortune cookies play into the exotic, mystical element of Chinese culture that is popular to Americans. Fortune cookies adapt to the mythologies that Americans have about Chinese culture. Yet the sayings in the cookies are more consistent with U.S.-American cultural values than with those of the Chinese. Tomoya Takahashi says, "If you ask a Caucasian what their opinion is about the Chinese or Japanese origin, they'll say, 'So what? It isn't important to them.' Well, as a Japanese American, it's important to me. I don't want the fortune cookie to be mistaken for or called Chinese." Ironically, today the Japanese Tea Garden, a San Francisco public park concession, is leased to Chinese operators. The fortune cookie that is served in the garden's tea house today is produced by, you guessed it, a Chinese American, congenial Simon Chow, owner of Mimi Bakery in Chinatown.